I'm Alexander Campbell. I'm principal dancer of the Royal Ballet, and I've just been appointed as the artistic director of the Royal Academy of Dance. A wonderful opportunity, a really exciting opportunity, and it's all sort of come about reasonably quickly. Certainly, the final performances of Manon, which I'll be doing, which will be the 2nd and 8th of March, just a couple of weeks away from when I was offered the role. But it feels like a wonderful sort of opportunity to finish on such an incredible ballet, and a ballet that I have real affinity for, having done the role of both Lescaut and Des Grieux. And yeah, I feel really fortunate, I suppose, to have the opportunity to go into something that I'm looking forward to. I think any dancer that has enjoyed a career like mine would say it's not possible to stop or step away without any sort of regrets or feeling like a certain sort of sadness that you're not going to have the opportunity to be in the incredible building of the Royal Opera House, performing with the Royal Ballet, but to have an opportunity like this, to go into a role that has wonderful certainly challenges but opportunities, is really exciting. So I just feel really a little bit of a whirlwind at the moment, because it has come quickly and it's going to end quickly, but also it's exciting, and that's I think something I've got to be really grateful for. I have a connection with the Royal Academy of Dance that goes back a long way. I did all the examinations as a child as part of my training. But also my grandmother was an examiner. She was a teacher, but she was also an examiner for the Royal Academy of Dance for many years. And I remember, she travelled and did exams all over the world, and I heard about the opportunities she was given, and the excitement around that, and seeing different students in different parts of the world, and how that looked, and so that connection, coupled with my training, and then another big part of my career really was competing in the 2003 Genet competition, which is now the Fontaine competition. But in 2003 it was held in Birmingham. We had an opportunity. I was at the Royal Ballet School at the time, but went up and did the competition, and that, I believe, is the first time that David Bintley, who was the director of the Birmingham Royal Ballet at the time, had seen me, and it was the first time I'd seen Birmingham Royal Ballet perform. We were able to go and see a performance of a triple bill that they were doing at the time we were up there. And so it really was, a stepping stone into a professional career, because from then I think David followed my training and then offered me a job at the end of my 3rd year at the Royal Ballet School. So there's been that connection with the RAD, and then more recently, since I've been back in London with the Royal Ballet, I've done a number of different fundraising events and been an ambassador on different projects. One was called Dance Down the Wicket, which was a collaboration between the RAD and Marylebone Cricket Club, based in Lords. And as a mad cricket fan, I was delighted to be part of that, because I got to go around Lords, and we sort of merged the two disciplines, ballet and cricket, and it was a pilot program that went out into schools in St John's Wood and the surrounding areas. So yeah, had a lovely connection with the RAD, and it's really exciting to be joining them now in this part of their history, particularly as they've just moved into the new headquarters in Battersea, which are exceptional. The studios there are fantastic, the facilities are brilliant, and so it really feels like a wonderful sort of springboard which to jump from. My great loves as a child were ballet and cricket. Ballet was introduced to me by my grandmother, who was the teacher and an examiner with the RAD, and cricket was introduced to me by my dad, who was coaching at the time, and he played high level in New South Wales before I was born. And I loved both, and I tried to keep them both going as long as possible. But there did come a point, I think when I was about 12 or 13 years of age, where the training for both, was quite long hours. And not only that, I mean, cricket takes a long time to play, it takes up your whole weekend. If you start getting into rep stuff, you start playing some midweek things as well. So it became a bit challenging to juggle the two. And I think my ballet teachers as well are thinking, well, if you want to do this properly, you've got to really focus and make sure that everything you're doing is working towards giving yourself the best opportunity to succeed. And I don't really remember a specific moment or point where I made that decision, but thinking back on it, I think there was certainly an appeal of doing something that was maybe a little bit different, from the rest of my peers at the time. I think a lot of, young boys, men growing up in Australia want to play cricket for Australia. That's, a very popular thing to aim for. But the idea of ballet was maybe a little bit more unknown, a little bit more exciting in the way that it was just a thing that would have to be explored. And as it turns out, I've had the opportunity to travel the world and perform in the most amazing theatres around the world. I think that was the right decision for me. I've really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I through the career that I've had, for instance, that collaboration with the RAD and the MCC, I was able to go to Lord's. I was able to go onto the hallowed turf of Lord's, which not a lot of people get to do. Even people who achieve really high levels in that chosen field, cricket. And I was also, this is one real claim to fame for me, is that I was interviewed for Test Match Special, which is an interview that they do in the lunch break on the BBC, and that was amazing. I got to go to the Cardiff Test during the Ashes, and got interviewed by Jonathan Agnew, and I mean that was enough for me. I feel like that was good. I remember so I was 15. I just turned 16 December, and then in January we flew over to compete in the Prix de Lausanne competition, and I remember packing my bags and thinking, the competition was a couple of weeks long, but the ultimate aim was to be accepted or invited to join a school, and it was always the goal to join the Royal Ballet School. And I remember packing and thinking, oh, well, I'm going to be gone for at least 6 months. That'll take me to the end of the school year, and then I'll come back. And looking back now, I think, gosh, could have only been a couple of weeks, but no, we're going to pack for the long term, and I'm going to get in. And I was fortunate that is what transpired. The Royal Ballet School did offer me a spot from the Prix de Lausanne, and I came back to London and started straight away. I remember, going with Mum to Heathrow, but she, wasn't going to stay for the 6 months. She had to get back, and sort of waving, sort of like, oh, okay, good luck. And subsequently, having spoken to Mum and the family about that time, she said, oh, that was one of the hardest things I'd ever had to do. Just sort of leave, a child. 16 is pretty young. At the time I thought, 16, I'm old, I know what I'm doing. But now I look at 16-year-olds and I go, oh my gosh, they're so young, imagine just leaving them. But it was always the goal, it was always the thing that I'd hoped to do. So whilst it was, challenging in some ways, and it was sad and lonely and all of those things, I'd achieved that first step to becoming a professional dancer, and so that was the thing that kept me going. I had been exposed to Birmingham Royal Ballet through the Genet competition, and I was really delighted that David Bintley, who was the director at the time, had an interest in me and offered me a job, because I'd done some work with them whilst I was at school on Beauty and the Beast, the first time he'd done it, and they needed some students to cover some roles. And so I did a stack of performances with them, and I felt almost part of the company. When you're going around doing 8 shows a week, 6-7 weeks at a time, it really felt like, oh, this is the life, this is what the professional experience is going to be like. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people and the atmosphere there, and So I hoped that, from doing that, they would be interested and give me a job. So I was delighted when they did. And, I think I joined at a really great time. David was still creating lots of work. Personally, it was a great time for me to join because there were a number of, I think, soloist men, sort of similar height to me, who'd retired and moved on. So there were just gaps in the company that needed filling. And so I got opportunities quite early and quickly, which I think was great. We did lots of performances, so I was on stage a lot. I feel like I gained a lot of experience learning the craft by actually being on stage, performing, not just doing the studio stuff, which is great, but having that actual experience of what a performance feels like in different stages, different venues, different audiences was really good. And I think at that time as well, with David as the director, we were disciplined. We had to do the roles as they were sort of set, but there was an element of freedom to interpretation as well, and that was encouraged. So I feel like I really learned a lot about who I was as a performer, not just as could I technically achieve certain elements in Sleeping Beauty or Swan Lake, but how do I want to perform? What sort of performer do I want to be? And I think that was probably the thing that I enjoyed most about my time there, and the thing that I really took away, having developed that for the rest of my career. I had an opportunity to guest with the Australian Ballet whilst I was with Birmingham Royal Ballet, and it was I think the timing was perfect for me in that I experienced a different company, a different way of working from the first place I joined, BRB. And I think I realized that I wanted to experience different companies. I didn't want to just stay in one company for my whole career, but I also knew in myself that I like being comfortable somewhat. I was scared about making the move, and I thought if I stay much longer, I may not leave, because it's a great company and the opportunities are good, and I was having a great time. So I started to think, where might I go? And I spoke with David McAllister, who was the director of Australian Ballet at the time, and I'd half hoped that he would offer me a job on the basis of what I'd done with them. And he said, no, I don't think you're ready to come back to Australia. I think you need to, you've been out there, you've worked out there, you need to continue pushing that. And he said, well, how about Royal? I said, well, yeah, fine, how about Royal? I mean, isn't that a dream? And he said, well, you can try. Okay, how do I go about that? And so this whole process of how do you even do that? I don't even know. I think I threw about 15 different things at the wall and hoped they stuck. And but at the time, the director was Monica Mason, who was incredibly knowledgeable and connected, and around the whole ballet scene around the world, but particularly the UK ballet scene. And I think once she knew that I was interested, she I think kept that in mind. And again, it was timing thing. I joined BRB and got a lot of roles on the basis that a lot of people had left, and there were opportunities there. I think there were a few injuries in the Royal Ballet ranks at the time, that Monica then invited me in for a meeting and said, there's an opportunity here as a soloist if you'd like to join. Have a think about that. And I think probably thought about it for about 20 seconds and then said, yeah, let's go. Because at that time, I think I was just really keen to be around, without any disrespect to anyone else in the world, ballet world, but the very top ballet dancers at that time, Carlos Acosta, Alina Kochikara, Tamara Rojo. I mean, the list goes on at that time, and I wanted to see how they prepared, how they worked day to day, because I'd watched their performances, I tried to emulate them, but you're just seeing the very end result. I want to know how they work. Are they working harder than me? Are they doing extra hours? What do they do? And so it was that was the main sort of catalyst for wanting to be here. And it was great because I got here and I saw them at work and realised that there's no magic ingredients and no secret sauce. They do work hard. They worked harder than anyone else, and they were driven, disciplined, passionate, and that's why they're so good. I'm like, well, I have to try and incorporate some of that into what I'm doing. There've been a number of productions or roles that feel special. One particularly would be Colas in La Fille Malgarde, because that's the first ballet that I saw here at the Royal Opera House on that trip that I came to do the Prix de Lausanne, and I saw Irek Mukhomedov and Miyako Yoshida in the roles of Colas and Lise. And I just remember loving it. I just sat there and was just transported. It was just fantastic performance. And it was, I had performed the role, I think a couple of times as a first soloist here, but it was the first role that I performed as a principal with the company. And it was a lovely full circle moment. My ballet teacher was actually able to come, my mum was here as well, and watch that performance. And that was a really special moment to think, gosh, I remember sitting up there watching, and now I'm doing it. Handful of years later. I think other roles that were special would include, I think Don Quixote was another, because when I expressed an interest in ballet when I was younger, my grandmother showed me a video of Mikhail Brishnikov with ABT, Don Q. I was like, that's amazing, that's what I want to do, that's how I want to dance. And then joining the Royal Ballet School and being part of Birmingham Royal Ballet and the Royal Ballet, it was not something that was in their rep. It hadn't been done for a long time. I don't know whether Birmingham Royal Ballet have ever done it. The Royal Ballet hadn't done it for a long time. So it was sort of something that I thought, oh well, that won't happen, but what a career. And then it was announced that Carlos Acosta was doing a new Don Q. Seriously, this is amazing. And that was probably, well, one of the first full lengths I did, principal roles, and that was with Roberto Marquez, who was outstanding, but also taught me a lot about the expectations and the standard that would be expected of a male principal dancer. So I learned a lot about that, but also just that feeling of, oh, that's the ballet that I looked at when I was 5 years of age and wanted to do, and how amazing that I'm doing it here at the Opera House. I think two other really special roles, I think, for the fact that I don't think, well, I know they didn't come about because I was supposed to do it. They came about because opportunities came up through various different things, and that was Giselle and Des Grieux in Manon. And they're roles that I mean, Giselle is my favourite ballet. I just love it. There's so much in it that I just think is brilliant, and the production we do here as well is beautiful. And I saw the Royal Ballet perform that on tour in Sydney before I'd moved over. I was an extra on stage wearing a costume that didn't fit, but had the props, and I was on stage. And I remember watching, we had the opportunity to go out front and watch Act 2, and that was Johann Coburg, Alina Koshikaru, and Zinaida Janowski as Queen of the Willies, and I was just the most amazing performance and thing I'd seen. So it was something that I always hoped to do, but didn't look like I was going to have the chance to do. But when it did come around, I felt really, really ready, had a clear idea of how I wanted to portray the role, what I wanted to do with it. And the same with Des Grieux, because I played the role of Lescaut a number of times and been involved with different casts, and I think you have a real perspective of what the ballet is as a whole, rather than just the one track of your character. And so when I got to rehearsing and then the performances in that role, I wasn't discovering it. I wasn't unsure. I was very clear in how I wanted to approach it and what I wanted to do. And so they were very special moments as well. The opportunity to stage and produce, The Limit, came up off the back of conversations that I'd had with Francesca Hayward. And we got a shared, I think, interest and desire to open ourselves and avail ourselves to different types of performances, not just strictly ballet, because we've got an interest in that. And so we managed to pull together an amazing team of people who created this sort of quasi-theatre dance merged thing for us, a real vehicle for us to really flex our our acting skills. The text was quite, I think probably more than we anticipated when we pitched the idea, but a great challenge. And actually, now that at that point I didn't know that I'd be moving into a new role and leaving the Royal Ballet at this stage. But looking back on it now, I think a really lovely shared moment for us in that we've done a lot of ballets together, a lot of debuts, and to create something together that was really specific to us and our skill set. It was lovely. It was a really sort of magical time, and I was just so grateful for the team around as well. The skills that they brought and the passion they brought to the project was amazing to see. I've always hoped to leave when the going's good, and I'm excited about the prospect of moving into something that is a positive thing. It's not been forced upon me. It's an opportunity for me to move forward. And 37 years of age for a ballet dancer is good. 18, 19-year career is good going. But to step into a senior management position at 37 is actually sort of quite young. And I've always, we all know that we have to move into a second career at some point. And so I've always been aware and kept my ear to the ground for opportunities or things that might be available, of interest, all of the things. And the fact that this has come up now felt like too good an opportunity to say no to, because it is something I'm passionate about. I think there's an opportunity there to be a real sort of spokesperson for ballet and dance, certainly not just vocationally, but in society in general. And so I would love, and that's what I want to do in the role. So I feel like I had to take it. Of course, there'll be times, I'm sure, where I think, oh gosh, I miss being on stage, because performing is something that you get a real kick out of. But I'm also really excited to see what this role is, and what I can do with it. And so if you've got a passion for that, I think I'm really lucky. I would like for the RAD, and I think it does that to a degree, but I think we can really push that forward, is that it is the best foundation in ballet training that you can get. That's the aim. To provide a really good springboard from which to jump from. I don't think any method of training, certainly in ballet, encompasses everything that you might come and do as a professional, because it's moving, it's living, it's breathing, it's developing and evolving. But for me personally, the foundation that I got by doing the exams and the syllabus of the RAD allowed me to develop and spring from there. And so I think any method of training or teaching has to be looked at and make sure that it's moving with the times and make sure it's relevant for people of today. So I'm looking forward to doing that and making sure that the offering is suitable and engaging. But yeah, I think it already does a great deal. It covers almost 80 countries and incredible members who have a fountain of knowledge that I'm looking forward to tapping into and learning about their experiences and what they need. But really, that's what we want to do. We want to give people the best possible sort of introduction and foundation to ballet and dance. My wife Claire is first soloist here in the company. Sometimes people ask, "Oh, is that hard? Working with your spouse?" And the reality is, when we're both here, we very rarely work together. To partner Claire, I would probably need to be a little taller, and so we don't really work. We're not in the same rehearsals and stuff. So often we go back home and be like, "How's your day?" and genuinely not know how it is. which worked for us. And I think, moving into this next phase of our lives, having the understanding of what the career means to us, because I think with ballet dancers, the intersection of, or the marriage of life and career is pretty close together. I was thinking about that, what is my life? My career is my life in a lot of ways, and that's going to change now that I'm leaving. And I think, gosh, how's that going to be? But I think to have someone who understands, the discipline, the dedication, that commitment you need to be at this level is really helpful. And I'm really glad that we're in a situation where Claire, coming back from the birth of our first child, our little girl Isla, who's almost 6 months now, I can't believe it, she'll be able to do that and sort of manage her career in the way that she would like, rather than having, if I got a role back in Australia or somewhere else, we would have to make decisions as to how that would affect her as well. But this all feels rather perfect for us as a little unit, which is lovely.